Hey everyone, TM from chasingpaganini.com, and today we're going to slow it down for the ladies. We're going to talk about phrasing, only a very small aspect of phrasing, and that is vibrato, and a little bit about note bending. There's a lot more to phrasing than just those two things, but we have to start somewhere. Let's start simple. And let's just get into it, and I'll shut the hell up. So I'm just going to pick a couple notes in A minor pentatonic to keep it simple, and we'll see what kind of things we can get into here. Well, let's take a line something like just 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's C, C sharp, D, C, and A. It sounds like a normal enough line you might hear in a simple blues solo, kind of. Now the normal way to do this would be probably like what I just played, with a little bit of jelly on the C there. But let's take this apart a little bit and see what we can do with it. You know, every time you learn a line, like if you learned a line like this, you don't have to play it exactly the same every single time. You know it works already in A minor. You know it works over a number of different chords or different sounds that you might use in a blues solo. So why not just play around with it a little bit, you know? I think Scott Henderson said, don't just learn licks, but learn from the licks that you learn. So that's kind of the normal way to do it. Let's think about the vibrato for a second. Commonly, like if we give a little something on the D here, that's fine. You can really dig into, notes with that sort of vibrato. I personally like that kind of sound, but something that appeals to me a little bit more is having a wider vibrato, and I don't just mean doing that sort of thing. When you bend a note, if you're on a D, in this case, and you use your vibrato, the pitch is only going up and back to its original point. So it's like... That's what's happening in vibrato. I kind of like to have it a little bit wider, but I personally don't use a whammy bar. So what I'll do is, instead of hitting the D and using a vibrato, I'll hit the D flat or C sharp or whatever, and I'll bend up to the D. So it'll be the same sound. Like here's a D, here's what I'm talking about. It's the same exact sound, but when you do the vibrato on this, it becomes much wider, because the first thing that happens is the note goes back down. Now, you might think that you will lose the actual note because you're kind of doing a wide bend all over the place, but that's really not the case. So, the normal way was just what I played. Bending up a half step down. You still hear that D. Even that one was a little sharp, but my bend was a little sharp, I mean. You can still hear the D in there, so you don't have to really worry so much about losing the intended note. Your intention will come through. And I really like that kind of very wide, it's like breathing almost. It sounds really nice. There's nothing wrong with it. I really like that kind of sound too. I really like that kind of sound too, but it's really nice if you want to dig into a phrase. And like I said, you don't have to play these particular 5 notes the same way every single time, like, look at me, Mom. It doesn't have to be that way every time. You can take your time, So just let it breathe a little bit, You can be safe knowing that this phrase works in, you know, A minor pentatonic. Because the two main notes here are C and an A. So you know it's going to be safe. So, you know, you can play around with it. You don't have to do it exactly the same way every time. You know, you can really get in there and do some stuff.